The film board gathers. The gang of thugs is here to take on a movie currently in theaters, and this month we're talking writers and wrestlers and songsters all tumbling from the pages of, screen of, life of Matthew Vaughn's latest Argylle.
What happens next?
It's called a cliffhanger, Mother.
Ellie, it's called a cop-out.
Whoa, hey, there's a cat in there.
Oh my God, you're Ellie freaking Conway.
Author of Argylle series, Ellie Conway.
I am such a fan.
Oh, yeah? What is it you do?
Espionage.
Would you sign my book?
Here we go.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Tommy Handsome the Third. Tommy, hello.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here as always. Thank you for having me, Pete.
And Justin J.J. Yeager is here.
Hello, I'm back. It's great fun.
I would like to open the show with an experience, and it is an experience of a conversation that I had with our very own Thomas W. Handsome III. And I'm going to play both parts because I don't trust him to deliver the line reading, his own line reading correctly. So
It's about to happen.
This takes place earlier in last week when I said, Tom, have you seen Argylle yet? Knowing that we're getting together, I said, Tom, have you seen Argylle yet? Cut to Tom. Yep.
Oh, what a terrible poker face.
That sets us up. Argylle is a spy action comedy film directed by Matthew Vaughn, written by Jason Fuchs. We've got our own ensemble cast: Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, Bryan Cranston, Catherine O'Hara, Henry Cavill, Sophia Boutella, Dua Lipa, Ariana DeBose. I mean, there's Cena is in it, and Sam Jackson. So we've got a lot of people. This cast is pretty stacked.
It is.
And yeah. This is an Apple Originals. They purchased the distribution rights for $200 million. I don't know. That wasn't meant to be a laugh line, but it ended up being a laugh line. $200 million. It's a story, and I would love to know some initial thoughts from you guys. What was your experience, JJ? We kind of got Tom's. Why don't you go first?
I'm super confused. I was super confused through most of it. I really like Matthew Vaughn, and yet I didn't really understand what was happening most of the time. I sound like I'm joking, but I am not. It moved so fast that I got spun around a lot, and I saw all those pretty faces and pretty people and wonderful cast members, and it was enjoyable to see those people doing the Matthew Vaughn things in the Matthew Vaughn movie. That's kind of how I felt. But I was very confused by the music and the action and the choices and the stuff. And I don't know what's coming next. So, and I want to talk about all of it. So that's why I love doing the show with you guys, because it's fun. But it was very confusing and not, it was what I expected, and then it wasn't what I expected. So I'll say that. So It'll be fun to talk about.
When did you see it?
I saw it last night, late show.
Okay, so I just saw it today. So we're both pretty fresh,
yes.
Right? Tom, you've had a chance to
a couple
stew
years
on
ago,
it,
I think,
like
right?
like a fine chili.
Yeah, the fact of seeing it a few days or a bunch of days ago, maybe a week ago, I'm not exactly sure. It has a little bit of that The Gentleman. I know that's Guy Ritchie, but that effect of every day that passes, more of it leaves my mind because it's so much style over substance, which I'm fine with if the style works. I think this had some great set pieces, some fun ideas, and one, for me, fatal flaw that brings the entire movie down with it.
Yes. I want to hear it.
Okay.
Hook, line, and stinker.
He slaps the microphone out of the way.
Well, I can't
That
drop
was
it.
really dramatic.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't necessarily, we don't usually start this way, but I have to talk a little bit about the mechanic of bringing the movie to life. And I think we should do it first because it's fascinating to me. The movie, Ellie Conway is the author of the book Argylle. And I say Ellie Conway, not in the movie. Which is the character that Bryce Dallas Howard is playing, right? I'm saying there is a book written by someone named Ellie Conway called Argylle.
That really came
And-
out in real life?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I'm going to the internet.
Hold on, because
Okay.
it's just a lot.
Wow.
Now, theories of who wrote the book
That I knew. Yeah.
abound. Like they're abound, right? So, and I
Tay-tay.
haven't listened to the whole book, but I downloaded the 5-minute preview, and it starts not in Greece, it starts in Russia. I don't know what the rest of the book is. I'm probably not going to listen to it, but there was a thing that got out that said, okay, maybe this is Taylor Swift wrote it, because Taylor Swift also has a Scottish fold cat, and there was apparently a story in a video or something. I'm not really a Swiftie,
Guys,
but
I'm not getting less confused.
no, I know, and you shouldn't. This
Taylor
is the
Swift.
universe. We're in the Argylle
You
verse.
remember I told you I was confused.
It's
Okay.
gonna, JJ, it's gonna get worse from here, man.
Gosh.
There is no way to undo what is happening right now.
I'm embracing it. Wait a second. What's the Taylor Swift part of this?
Oh, God. Somebody on the internet said, oh my gosh, this movie's coming out, and Taylor Swift wears an Argylle sweater and has a Scottish fold cat. And there was some music video of some sort where Taylor Swift writes an in-universe book.
Right.
And somebody said, I think that's Argylle. I think Taylor Swift wrote Argylle. Now, I'm going to say, don't, you know what? Don't, if you know the whole story, honestly, good, go with God. I don't need to be corrected on this part. That's not really the point, fair listener. And you know what? The point is, Taylor Swift didn't do it. You know who also didn't do it? I'm going to tell you. It wasn't J.K. Rowling. Yep, that's right. J.K. Rowling was in the running for this, too.
Was it Jake Gyllenhaal?
It was not Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, you're having me see red.
Well, the
Oh,
first
my goodness.
the first Goodreads review, because immediately, whenever we talk books, I immediately go to Goodreads. And the first Goodreads review was, wouldn't it be amazing if Jake Gyllenhaal wrote this book?
Yeah.
So what?
Okay. So
I didn't write it.
No, I didn't write it. Anybody else?
Okay.
Tom is silent.
Yeah,
Let's
I
note
did.
Tom's silence. Tom may have written Argylle. This is the story as reported by Vulture.
Okay.
Matthew Vaughn wanted to make a movie adaptation of. Well, I should actually out it because it names the names. The Ellie Conway is actually two writers: Terry Hayes, who wrote I Am Pilgrim, and Tammy Cohen, When She Was Bad. And so these two wrote the book.
All right.
Vaughn wanted to make a movie adaptation of Hayes's I Am Pilgrim, but MGM had the rights, and, quote, they could not do a deal with Matthew for their own bizarre reasons, explained Hayes. But Vaughn decided that instead of adapting an existing book he couldn't get his hands on, he'd ask Hayes to write an accompanying book inspired by the movie in development, Argylle, a book that would be like what Conway would have written in the context of the movie. Hayes asked Cohen to co-author the book with him as he was still working on The Year of the Locust, and Argylle was born.
Okay.
Did that make it, clear? Got it?
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
No, thank you.
So what it...
This simulation sucks.
That's right. We reboot.
Yeah.
This is why I wanted to read that, because this is a book that was it was written bespoke for a movie, the idea that the director had, and then regurgitated through these actual authors in the form of a character who is in the movie who has written the books.
Because otherwise he wouldn't be able to have the rights to it.
That
Because
was,
otherwise,
well,
if it's not that, this seems like a whole lot of work that doesn't need to be done.
exactly. And that was really it, because he had his sights set on Hayes's book, I Am Pilgrim, but MGM already had the option on that, and so he couldn't do it. And so he has an original book now. And
I did shut down like a good 45 seconds ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I could see it. I could see the shades drop on your eyeballs. They just sort of glazed.
I mean, I love this stuff, but I can't.
I get it.
This is why I wanted to bring that up, because I feel like that entire vibe, that entire just nest of confusing sort of relationships to create the story absolutely manifests on screen.
Right. Oh, I see. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
The script is fighting itself.
Yes.
The script is the script is punching itself in the face all the time.
The whole time.
Yes.
The whole time. And I will say, in terms of my kind of initial experience with the film, I'm with JJ. Like, I have no idea what was going on, but there was a lot of like fantastical parade of pixels going on. Like, there's some fun beats that I thought were entertaining. and a lot of Vaughnisms. And also, I don't get what the point is. There was a MacGuffin inside another MacGuffin in this movie. Like it was a nesting
Unscrew the
doll
MacGuffin
of
for a
MacGuffins. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
More like a
Tom,
McMuffin. Yes.
what do you? What do you? He slaps the mic out of the way again. It's gonna be this kind of show.
That's my new thing, a visual thing for an audio format. Yeah.
So Tommy, kick us off. Like when you think about that, when people, and I know I'm asking you this intentionally because you've already told us that you don't remember the movie. So when you think about the movie,
Yeah.
can you talk about the relationship between our principal characters? I'm talking about Rockwell and Howard in this case, because I think if there is a high point in the movie for me, it's buried in this relationship somewhere. What do you think of how it goes?
Well, within that is my fatal flaw. Is my personal the fatal flaw.
So we start off fighting.
Because and I never talked about the idea that I love both Kingsman movies. I don't, not the prequel. The prequel was weirdly asleep. But the first
like the second one too.
And the second one with Channing Tatum, I think that was almost as fun as the first one. And I know that's a rare
you're an
opinion to have. So so I came to this movie with open arms, and this movie achieves some of that a couple times, and those are the parts that I enjoyed the most, of like, oh, he's just, the reins are off and he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Of going to answering your question now about the relationship, for me, the biggest single problem in the movie was casting, and it was casting of Bryce Dallas Howard. I think that unfortunately, and I like Bryce Dallas Howard. I haven't seen her in a ton. I really liked her in The Village. Lady in the Water was not her fault. Other things haven't stuck out as much. She plays a tough role in that she is in the Kate Capshaw Temple of Doom line of women casting in action films. She is the drag. She's like the damper where like Sam Rockwell, who is always, for me, exceptional and so much fun and so effortlessly charming and cool, for someone to be like, no, it's like the shrew character. I'm not saying that she's a shrew, but it's just a drag of a character to still have the woman to have. It'll work. We're completely in spoiler territory?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because there are some significant spoilers ahead. We're in spoiler territory.
Is it okay? Because it has to do with my point.
Let's do it.
If you're going to change the shrew into the biggest badass of the movie, you've got to have someone that nails it. And she does not. They do not cut around a lot of the action. They cut around her considerably. She is dressed incredibly unflattering during the entire movie. And when it's time for her to be a badass, it is not convincing at all. And she's just... I was embarrassed for her. I was embarrassed by what they made her do and what she couldn't handle. And so I didn't like the relation. I liked the idea of the relationship, but I was always desperately like, cut back to Sam Rockwell, because he's pulling this off.
Well, yeah, and I agree. So I agree with the point about Bryce Dallas Howard as well. That was the part I didn't expect, right? If especially with trailers and coming to the movie, that turn is not what I expected, especially with the cast. And I liked Sam Rockwell a lot too, but I didn't necessarily think, I think the reason why he pulled it off so well is just in contrast to what you have from Bryce Dallas Howard. And because of that, you end up with two characters which really didn't have any chemistry when they were supposed to have chemistry.
Right. It never shows up.
Yeah. So, I mean, as much as I like Rockwell as well, and like Bryce Dallas Howard and other things, I end up disliking them both here because I think they're both miscast. Right. I mean, that's the hard part. Like, and you get into all the different frames within a frames and the simulation and the memories and all this stuff. And you're like, but the spies were the fantasy spies, and the real spies never become real spies here for me. They're always I mean, we're always missing John Cena and Henry Cavill. I mean,
sure.
That's the thing. And I mean, so I understand why that's your fatal flaw, that the casting and the sort of development of what we were supposed to go through as audience members never happened because of the different roles that were just ran through
Right,
as quickly
right.
as possible to get us there. So
Sure.
yeah, that was really hard. What's the relationship that you're talking about, Pete?
No. I feel like what I said was buried in their relationship is a real high point to me. And that
Yeah.
was a tease for my absolute adoration of Sam Rockwell in this movie. Because I think Sam Rockwell pulls off the switch, right? And we get the switch early for him, right? He's the goofy, bearded wanderer, ending up in one of the best fight sequences that I've seen lately. It is the most cleverly edited, fight sequence. The fight on the train.
The first
Oh,
train.
okay,
The fight
yeah.
on the train is magnificent, you guys. It just was fantastically mind-boggling thinking how they cut this together, how precise they had to be to execute all of the fight sequences for both Henry Cavill and then switch to
Right.
Sam Rockwell and do it again and again and again to get those frame matched, and the fast wipes like to handle her delusionary experience of this whole thing. I thought that was so cool, right? I just really thought it was cool.
But you've just opened the box to the logic problems that exist within the lore of this film, in that if she is witnessing Henry Cavill as Argylle, as Sam Rockwell, and then it turns out that she is actually Argylle, and she is actually, and Henry Cavill is actually within her, it doesn't make any sense that she is having difficulty seeing the difference between Sam Rockwell and Henry Cavill in that beautifully orchestrated scene.
Right. And this is the problem, right? Because I love the beautifully orchestrated scene, but I am now watching it outside of the film. I'm watching it the whole time.
Yes.
I am no longer in the story
Yep.
because I, at that point in the movie, so I'm saying that now with a bit of hindsight, because at that point in the movie, I thought he was just a delusion. It's only when we stop and think about it after we figure out that she's actually Argylle that the whole thing falls to pieces for me.
Yes.
But the experience of watching, and I think that where I disagree in the casting of Bryce Dallas Howard is I think she does pull off kind of the dowdy writer character, right? The confused kind of writer character. I think she handles the first part of the movie okay. The problem is there, to both of your points, there's zero charisma between the two of them. It never it never flourishes or blooms. And when he says, "You can do it, I love you," later in the movie, I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
Like, there is no way I buy that relationship.
No,
at all.
you can't.
You don't really, dude. So
Well-
I just think it was, I think it was a casting. I think to your point, like, I have never seen, and I like Bryce Dallas Howard as a performer. I think I've enjoyed things that she's done, and I don't see her as an action star. And that's the twist that I think we miss.
The role calls for someone being comedic. And I don't think she does that well either.
Mm-mm.
She's very moony. She's very just sort of like wide-eyed and straightforward, and then isn't able to handle. Vaughn gives her, or the writer, I'm sorry, gives her a lot of whiplashes of, we went through this crazy thing and now I'm supposed to say something crazy like, well, you dropped your pencil or something. She's not able to handle any of that. It's just, it takes, if you're going to put someone through all of these things, it takes nuance. It takes either strong physicality, strong nuanced comedy, strong timing, and she's just not the one for it. And again, I like her. I don't blame her. I blame her being cast in it. She's not the right one for this role.
I think she embodies the character in Jurassic World far more than this, where she is on the borderline between likable and dislikable, right? She's able to be that. She was not able to be this as much. The sort of substance problem that I have with that aspect, so the first aspect when she's the writer, is that the conceit is that these books are bestsellers and they're amazing books, and all of the stories and the dialogue from the stories are terrible.
It doesn't look like
Argylle is not a good book.
It doesn't. The writing isn't good. And you remember when, like, the last time everyone was like, Tom Clancy signed my breasts. Like, also the world doesn't exist. Where everyone is so gaga and the author is like the most famous person on earth. It all is a broken machine.
Yeah.
In order to try to make all of these way too many twists kind of work.
Yeah.
It's all really very over mechanized in a way that, like, the Kingsman,
the whole movie is the God Machine.
Right. The Kingsmans are way over plotted, but in a way that that it works because the style is so consistent, and there's things like mind control. There's all of these different things involved. This tries to be grounded in a way and then throws the kitchen sink at the screen.
Yeah, I really appreciate your comparison to Jurassic World too, because I think that's the movie that exemplifies Howard's ability to be funny when written right, to be charming, to build a blossoming romance with Chris, and to actually show something in an action movie that was the recipe.
Same thing. She's the drag on the ticket in that one, and yet you still kind of end up liking them.
Because you're able to make the twist with her, right? You're able to make the turn, and this movie, the turn just grinds to a halt. And I think Rockwell, the surprise for me with Rockwell is that I can see him as even more of like an action star. Like I think he pulled off the fights in a way that I thought I will watch this guy do more stuff like this.
Him bursting out from the floor during the time of the cat things. Cool. That's outstanding.
So cool. But the thing that I'm not going to ever believe about Sam Rockwell is that he's in love with someone. Or that maybe that he's in love with Bryce Dallas Howard.
Definitely not.
Not
he
Bryce
can play
Dallas
the
Howard.
hard side, but how does Sam Rockwell? He at least needs someone as quick as him, or that's going to jab back and forth, like that kind of love affair. Maybe the Mr. and Mrs. Smith type of love. I don't know.
Totally.
But Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. He's got some good chemistry with people.
Exactly.
But that goes to the writing. It's part chemistry, but part someone that is his equal, because you can tell. I could see him wincing at certain lines
on screen.
Yeah. At one point, I think he turned to me. He was like, "I know." Like it's like Joe Coy. I wrote some. Other people wrote some.
So all of this is amplified because we also get an introduction to the supposed lineage of our fair writer Ellie, and we meet Mom, Catherine O'Hara, and Bryan Cranston is dad. Now we already know that Cranston is the head of the what is it?
There's the division, there's the consideration, there's the senatitation. There's too many issues.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so the relationship with parents, the syndicate, sure. The relationship with the parents, I think, is really interesting because, one, again, spoiler, they're not parents. They are part of the division. And turns out that there was more mind control. They've been mind controlling her all along because she was actually a figure skater spy who ended up in a coma. And they mind controlled her to make her think she was the Stouty author. And then that's the whole thing, y'all. We're still fighting around
a long con. Yeah,
and really it was about her being a figure skater and spy, and they reprogrammed her.
Right.
What do you think of these two? I mean, in terms of, again, a stacked cast doing things that might not be things that they want to put at the top of their CV.
I can say real quick because mine is just very pithy. There's, for as stacked of a cast as this is, a lot of them are doing a lot of like Morgan Freeman-esque acting. Yeah. Meaning, like, I can tell that was 2 days on set for the entire thing. 2 locked in locations with no natural light, no actual outside things. Morgan Freeman's doing so much of that. And we were really ragging on Bruce Willis for doing that. Now it's sad because we realize he was trying to save up money. But Morgan Freeman doesn't have that same excuse for just being in one suit an entire movie behind a desk talking.
Yes.
That's what a lot of these people just sort of showed up. Just to do a little bit, and I can shoot you in and out around all of the rest of your schedule in a day and a half. So when we say stacked cast, it's also kind of like, oh, look, was that John Cena? I don't know. The end.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, maybe Marv Productions is like a Hollywood playground, right? Like
right.
I can sign up for a Marv movie and I can show up for 2, set pieces and it'll be great. But what I would say about the two of them in particular is that I love them. I enjoy watching them. They don't feel connected to anyone else in the story, and because of that, their characters seem paper thin. So how does that make me feel? I don't know. As for another thing, for as stacked a cast as this is not an ensemble piece.
Yeah,
they're not working together.
I don't want movies to go down this road of just like turning really big stars into day players so your poster is more impressive. That sucks.
That's
I
how
want
this
characters.
feels for sure.
Cut the characters in half and make them real, and don't have Samuel L. Jackson probably in real time watching a basketball game while being paid millions of dollars.
And him giggling at the desk while the download is buffering could be my least favorite scene to go back to multiple times during the by all accounts climax fight scene. Like,
and to what end? Because everyone that matters is gone, and everything blew up at the end. So he's going to be like, see what used to exist. Ugh.
Yeah,
I'm so angry. This is funny. Usually during these episodes, I start to respect movies more. As we talk about it, I'm actually losing. I'm giving more stars back to Oppenheimer than JJ stole in our last episode.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, and that puts us in an interesting place. You know, to your point about like desk acting, this very much reminded me as I'm watching the third act come to pieces. It reminded me of the last season of Arrested Development when all the stars had broken off and they were very famous, and they just stacked the schedule with cutaways
and green screens and cutaways,
right? And it was just kind of a monstrosity of an editing job. Like, I don't envy anybody who managed to put that together. And that's what the certainly after the reveal of the parents, that they're not the parents, things go sideways, and that's exactly what it felt like to me. It's just no longer
the best performer of this movie is the first AD. For making it a cohesive movie, even though it doesn't make sense to make this all work, because these people never met each other. Even the poster that you put on the coda, none of those people are in the same room. None of them have the same lighting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You know what is so interesting, and I did put that picture in there because I feel like all the heads should be moved around. Like they're not in the right order given the movie we just saw, and I think that's a little bit baffling. And I think they could have actually played a better trick had they put the actors in the right. Henry Cavill should not be in the front of that. Obviously, he's the biggest, like he's the face of the thing, I guess. But I think it does a disservice to the story, and so it's frustrating. It is just ends up being frustrating.
And with that photo, the marketing in this movie is baffling. Yeah. The marketing, one of the biggest marketing things that they did was, who is the real Argylle? And it turns out, we saw Bourne Identity. So it turns out that we're going to rip off from that. And then the amount of cat, someone in the test audience thinks that CGI cat is hysterical, because you take that cat out of the movie, nothing changes. Pete actually asked me the one thing he didn't say in our earlier. He's like, you can just tell me one thing. Does it turn out that the cat is somehow Argylle? Because doesn't it make you seem that way? Like, they thought that the cat was the thing to hang on to in every trailer, and that cat is a nothing.
I'm gonna tell you something about the cat that will explain everything. Right?
Oh,
the cat is a Scottish fold, and Scottish fold cats are known for something that is horrifying. I'm going to tell you that it's not relevant to the story. All fold cats are affected by osteochondrodysplasia, a developmental abnormality that affects cartilage and bone development throughout the body. This condition causes the ear fold in the breed, and studies point to all fold cats being affected by it. Fold cats therefore have malformed bone structures and can develop severe, painful, degenerative joint diseases at an early age. And they threw this cat off a roof.
So
Kidding,
it's
of
just
course.
God's little mistake.
This cat is Matthew Vaughn's personal cat. It's his family.
You mean
cat.
when it's not CGI'd?
When it's not
cat?
CGI'd.
Oh,
it's
well
his real
then.
cat.
So
and
Matthew Vaughn's body was hysterical.
Putting the dog,
the little dog
Pearl Harbor.
in Pearl Harbor. That's right. I forgot about that little dumb dog.
I can't stand that.
Yeah,
it explains everything. You are right.
You're right. It explains everything. And
explains everything. Yep. And also, sorry for those cats. Like maybe, and in fact, due to these health conditions, breeding fold cats is prohibited in several countries, and some major cat registries don't recognize the cat breed. but we just saw it in a movie.
Yeah, so it's going to blow
Like,
up
it
now.
seems like
This
an
is the
act of
101
evil.
Dalmatians of cats.
Yeah,
There's
right,
Scottish folds.
right. So that's where we stand on the principle. Now we've got to talk a little bit about the movie that I wanted to watch, which is actually The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but also adding John Cena to it and Dua Lipa. Frankly, like the action scene in the beginning, I thought was fun and sexy and frivolous and cartoony. And he drove down I guess it looked like Santorini to me. Like he drove down the white roofs of Santorini, and it was fun and funny, and I liked it. Right up until the book stuff happened. What do we think about those guys hanging out in this movie?
For me, that whole sequence I liked, but it's just every single one of those has been done better in better movies. This is the most derivative. And if it's supposed to be an in-joke about being derivative, it doesn't play that way. It's very excited with itself. This movie is. It's very proud of itself.
That's the problem. It's like it's like a cheaper version of Fast X, right? Of like, let's do something crazy. And then again, I go to that sort of earlier conceit that this is supposed to be a best-selling book. And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like none of their character dialogue, the book character dialogue is good, interesting, powerful, something that we would want to buy. Sorry, Ellie Conway or the host of other writers that you mentioned actually wrote Argylle. But like that's the big problem for me. I mean, it reminded me of like a Fast X scene. And that's, I guess, the point that Tommy's making here is if it was trying to be cleverly derivative, it missed it. It ended up just being flat to me, unfortunately.
And that dance sequence where it turns out everyone is in the club is in on it but him, that was done better in No Time to Die.
Yeah.
He's stolen all of these sequences from just better movies, all of the twists from better movies.
He actually, Vaughn himself is on the record as saying that, I wanted a James Bond movie and I nicked Henry Cavill before Bond could get him, because Cavill was up for the role in the last Switch, but he was 22 and they didn't give it to him because he was too young. But this is the movie that Vaughn wanted to make, was a James Bond movie. And he's been dancing around it with the Kingsman movies. And now he finally got Cavill and used him like this. And I thought that was a really interesting choice because I really did want this to be a Henry Cavill movie. Now, of course, that leads us to the post-credits scene, which I think is important because it sets up potentially some wildly confusing twists to come. I mean, you thought the writing of the book thing was nuts. Get ready. Because we have two things that happen. The first one is before the credits. In the reading, she's now written the next book and she's being celebrated. And we have a gentleman stand up with a significantly flamboyant mullet. And that is Henry Cavill in
a deeply Southern accent. But again, this conceit doesn't work because there is no movie. There is only a book. So there is no actual Argylle that is Henry Cavill before this point.
But then, JJ,
then
that's
mid-credits. Did you see the mid-credits scenes?
Wait, are there two mid-credit scenes?
No, just one.
No, my point is for Ellie Conway / Rachel Kyle, the author, to be on stage and to be shocked to see a person in the audience who matches what her estimation of her character looks like means absolutely nothing to anyone else in this universe because no one's ever seen that person before. That is a figment of her imagination.
Well, they have like little action figures that kind of vaguely
they don't look like Henry Cavill. They definitely don't like Southern mulleted Henry Cavill.
Well, that's why no one else reacts. She goes, no one else reacts.
But this is the twist I think that they're setting up, though.
Yes,
like
we're
this is the
to.
twist that when she sees him, it turns out that her mind had supplanted this image of her as the agent. When it put her real life in her subconscious, it supplanted it with this person that she already knew. I think that's the thing that they're trying to get to. But here is the thing.
Oh my gosh.
The mid-credit sequence is 20 years earlier, and we have somebody walking into the Kingsman pub. And we have the Kingsman symbol of the rope hanging on a sign. Yes. And we go inside and a young man says,
very handsome young man.
So handsome. Movie. You'd say he's really Cavill-esque, young man, right? Like, and he says some things, and the bartender hands him a box, and there's a gun in the box. That's a twist, and he introduces himself as Aubrey Argylle, and that is supposed to be the young Henry Cavill character, is the idea. Now,
Yes.
this gets back to Vaughn. Vaughn has said, when asked about, is Argylle supposed to really be in the same universe? And he says, well, they both exist in my head.
In the same
So
universe as the Kingsman.
As each other, yeah.
Go ahead.
Right. He said, they both exist in my head, so that is the universe. I will say Argylle wears very well-cut suits, wink, and later says, the Kingsman is on the right, and Argylle is on the left, and we definitely have this idea for something in the middle. He has been on the record of saying that he's got an 8-part series for The Statesman, which is built off of The Kingsman 2. He's got a lot. This is the Kingsman Argylle universe that he's building. And so is Argylle really a figment of her imagination, or is it somebody that she knew in the service? And how is Argylle going to be the connective tissue between the Kingsman and the Argylle verse? That's the big question.
So this, to me, when I hear that, because it makes no sense to me as an audience member, this makes me feel like Matthew Vaughn is just creating a portfolio of ideas that he had, so that when he has his next studio meeting, they say, what have you got? And he's like, you remember what's on the right? You remember what's on the left? Well, look at this.
Here's a whipped cream pie.
Exactly. Right in the middle. What do you think? They all made money. I mean, it doesn't. I think it's great that it's in his head, but it's utterly confusing as an audience member who liked most of these movies to go, how do I get in the middle with you, Mr. Vaughn?
Yeah.
There's also three big elephants in the room. Number one, of course, Samuel L. Jackson and the woman that plays the Keeper of Secrets were both in the Kingsman as very different people and are no longer with us. They both died in the Kingsman, in the first Kingsman.
Samuel L. Jackson,
she was the one
Valentine.
with the swords for legs.
I remember. Yes.
Number two, when it was going up and saying Argylle, the book, the movie,
book one, the movie.
Coming soon, they forgot one last credit, which should have said, don't look at Box Office Mojo, because this film is eating. It's bad. Yeah. This film is not like it's. I felt embarrassed. It didn't make any sense. And my cool quote in the theater of one other person was, what? But then, like, it's not going to happen.
No. Well,
it can't. Well, I shouldn't say never, but like, this is not a franchise continuer. It's certainly not a franchise starter. It's doing on a $200 million bet, unless the answer is Apple doesn't care. And their pockets are so weird, and streaming is changing so much that potentially the ways the barometers that we usually use are stopping making sense anymore. And it's like, oh no, it makes sense that they would drop $200 million on something that had a $15 million opening domestic thing because of all of these other things that I don't understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really interesting sort of economic climate, right? That Apple wants a thing that is going to be flashy on their title card that gets people to play, more than 60 seconds, right?
Right.
Like, I feel like they're looking for streaming inertia in addition to box office prestige, but that prestige part can't go unnoticed, right? Or understated, because Apple right now has a reputation of higher quality stuff generally. Right. They want to be yesterday's HBO, right? That they're a little bit pickier. And this is a Netflix joint right here. This is like late night Netflix streaming. Yeah, this is Red Notice.
Yeah,
you're exactly right.
And the thing that I think about it is, yes, the bad numbers are one thing, but if you think about the Fast X franchise, or the Fast and Furious franchise, it makes far more money than this. But one of the sort of attractions about, as you get into 10 Fast movies, is that they continue to bring big names. They continue to bring big cast members for tiny moments, right?
Like John Cena.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so you have this. So what Matthew Vaughn is saying to Apple potentially is, I'm going to give you 15 more actors that are all, I'm putting in air quotes, A-list, that are going to get people to at least turn it on.
Yeah.
I think they bit the hand that feeds them then with that idea, with this whole,
go for it.
Who is the real Argylle? the
Yeah.
person that's already on the poster.
Right.
That is really biting. I mean,
That was the answer.
I was trying to think like who would be big enough, and people were thinking it might be Taylor Swift, that these big major stars would show up for this small thing and it would blow the house down, like Tom Cruise's Les Grossman and stuff. And instead they were like, oh no, it's her, just with jeans that fit. Sorry, I'm so mean about the jeans.
But then it ends up not being her. It ends up being the guy you thought it was all along. It's Henry.
But he was
Cavill.
already in the movie.
I know.
They were phrasing it not like it wasn't like a horror movie like Scream, whatever, where just like the killer's on the poster. They said, who's the real Argylle? Who? They weren't saying one of us is the Argylle. It's someone you can't even imagine would be in this dumb movie. And instead it turned out to be Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
I think that's biting the hand
true.
that feeds you. Otherwise, JJ, I 1000% agree with your thought of if they're able to just Morgan Freeman everybody and just get these flashy posters and flashy stuff, maybe that's enough. And that sucks.
I agree.
Yeah. Another interesting bit that is a Vaughnism, I think, is the flamboyant action scene at the end, right? And in the Kingsman, we had the incredibly violent church scene and the confetti head thing, right?
And the confetti head things, yep.
Right. Those very big and colorful and exuberant exercise in violence. And here we have the parade of colored smoke. Yeah. What do you think of that set piece?
It was my favorite part of the movie, and I thought it was also totally embarrassing. But that was the movie. That's the movie that I showed up for. When I see Matthew Vaughn, I want to see more of that. And I thought it was only okay, but I was still like, I was hiding my eyes and then would burst out laughing. It was so over the top. It was so indulgent that it was like, this is the part that I want more of. If you're going to, when you talked about, Pete, the idea, I think we talked off thing about like, that if you like Matthew Vaughn movies, the writing's on the tin. You have a cool phrase about that. What is that?
Yeah,
the proof is in the
tin.
It's written on the tin. That's what's written for Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah.
Something more like that. That shined for me, even though it was terrible, and I loved it.
And I wouldn't have I found it pretty, but not executed well, and I was laughing. I shouldn't actually say laughing. I was wincing at its ridiculousness too. I wouldn't have chosen that as the big set piece, though. I would assume it was the ice skating through the oil.
Oh my god! I'd already forgotten about the ice skating,
and I don't particularly like that one either. Again, interesting and pretty, but not believable and fairly ridiculous. So,
well, okay. I would just say that, like,
I forgot about that scene. I forgot about
when
the whole
you
sequence.
present a
Can you
Matthew
imagine
Vaughn,
how much that cost? And I completely forgot about that sequence.
I know.
I saw it a week ago.
my pushback here for you, JJ, is that when you say Matthew Vaughn and it just is not believable, I feel like those two things are high jump, low ceiling. Of course they're not. But this is the problem that I have with those two sequences in this movie. They don't tie back to anything substantive in the actual narrative. They're just pretty. Yes. And in The Kingsman, the entire thing was built on this story that had heads plugged in and mind control. So when we get to the end, it meant something.
I 100% agree.
This. Yes. And neither of these were just flashy getaway sequences. They didn't matter.
Right. Why do they have this oil room in this place? Yeah.
Well, and that was a hint that, oh my God, the reveal they're actually on an oil tanker. So this really is Matthew Vaughn's Waterworld, you guys. Like,
but that's also like don't shoot because it's going to explode. And then after we get done ice skating, we're gonna shoot a whole lot. Like what the it just Nothing is real, right? But
nothing
I agree
is real.
With you. I think,
and there's so
the
much.
Kingsman part was far more clever.
Yeah, and this gets. Yeah, never has a movie. It's been a while since a movie has worked this hard to make me feel so numb.
Yeah,
like about halfway through of like, bah. I'm just looking around, like I'm looking at the exit sign. I'm like, did exit signs used to be green? Have they always been red? That seems like a weird thing to put it. Like, that's not a good thing to say during a $200 million movie.
You haven't thoughts on George Richmond, DP? What in terms of when we step away from the movie, what do we have to say about how well it was shot? Anything fascinating about that?
When it calms down, it's kind of cool. There's definitely a technical precision to it, but there's so much Zack Snyder-ish speed up, slow down, motion control stuff. It's tough to see a lot of soul in it. JJ, you're better at this stuff than I am.
Well, the motion control stuff was not spectacular. It was I don't want to say it was expected, but again, like everything that we talk about is table stakes with a Matthew Vaughn movie. We want to see, we're expecting to see something special that we haven't seen before, and this stuff was all just kind of pretty and the same.
George Richmond has done a lot of stuff that I think is really, really quite good. He was a camera operator for a long time on some big stuff that I like a lot. He is he was on DP for Fantastic Beasts, right? The last so I mean, you talk about big productions.
Sure.
Free Guy, Rocket Man, Tomb
Free
Raider,
Guy.
Free Guy. That was a lot of fun. Guy. So, and also is a Vaughn guy. So he did Kingsman, Golden Circle, he did Secret Service. And so he's been around a long time. I think this is as Sarmento would say, this is a competent film, right? Like it's competently lensed and it generally, I think, looks good. I would say the same thing about the the costumes. We just interviewed a costume designer for Movies We Like. That's coming out very, very soon. Please check it out because it's really interesting. It's a really interesting conversation. And I just want to shout out Stephanie Colley because in fact they do wear great suits. And I wonder if this had been a better movie if the Argylle suit cut would be something that actually catches on. I don't know that it's a Halloween costume caliber suit, but it's a good looking suit that Cavill wears.
I love Henry Cavill, but I had the same thing that I would say about his costuming in Man of Steel is that he is just too jacked.
He's so jacked.
He's so jacked that he looks like he is like Popeye level, like dumbbells for arms guy.
Did you notice they try to like size him down next to Cena and it just never works?
You can't. He's too jacked. And Cena's crazy jacked too, but it's just like, but then to put him in a suit like that, like I like in, where is it? The film where he actually loads up his arms against
Mission
Tom
Impossible.
Cruise. Mission Impossible. Yeah. Like that makes sense. Like, of course they don't put a blazer on him because he's too jacked.
Right.
Like, just let him go in his shirt and go.
Stop giving him spinach. Gug.
Yeah, exactly right.
I have been listening to the score for the last little bit since I left the movie, and score is by Lauren Balfe, and it is also competent action movie score. There's nothing really singable in the no like symphonic melodies that really stick to my head, but we do have Ariana DeBose who sings a couple of tunes on it, and they're lovely. One's kind of a disco beat, one's a ballad, and I think they're nice tunes.
What is up with the music cues during the fights, though?
Yeah, what'd you think?
I mean,
I like that they had the restraint not to use "Just Call Me Angel of the Morning." That became the go-to horror and action stunt cue for a really long time.
Yeah, but I mean, they basically were doing the same thing with lesser songs, right? I mean, honestly, like they're, none of the songs seemed to connect to an emotion that was actually happening. They were just going for that contrast of, maybe what is it? Mid-70s adult contemporary with a whole bunch of violence behind it. Like that doesn't. I don't know. I mean, that was a innovation at one point. It's not anymore.
Yeah,
it needs to be connected to story, or
it has been used well by Vaughn.
That could be the tagline for this movie, JJ. It was innovative for a while, and it's not anymore. He's trying a lot of the same kind of tricks that he did, but to lesser and lesser effect. Yeah, agreed.
Letterboxd. We are on Letterboxd, True Story FM's family of film podcasts. We're all over on Letterboxd. You can catch us at the Next Reel's HQ page, letterboxd.com/the Next Reel. And gents, how do you approach this movie? Again, Nonsenseville in terms of story, but it's pretty to look at.
Yeah.
Tom? JJ?
I want more Matthew Vaughn innovations and less of this. So the story doesn't work for me. I will catch any sequels or blending of the universes on streaming services, but I wouldn't advise to go see him in the theater. He was a must see for me on the theater for so long as a director, because I just wanted to experience it. I wanted to be on the ride. This one was not a fun ride. So I gave it a 1.5 and no heart for me. That's where I'm at.
Tom?
Yeah, I think he is a very talented filmmaker. I guess I want a little bit more layer cake instead of insanity. I just want, like, a lot of the apartment fight. I wanted more of that and less of some of the insanity. You don't need to throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. A lot of it is not going to, and maybe that's a part of my age. I don't know. But like, I need some grounding. And if this movie had half of the stuff that it did, there could be some really powerful, cool scenes. He's still got it. We are in a renaissance of action if you're looking in the right directions. And if you're not, we're looking at a lot of directors that are realizing they don't know how to catch up. And so they're just throwing everything at it. We reviewed a movie from an ex-boss of mine recently where we talked about that in Silent Night. And so I'm going to give this a 2 and a no heart. But if you can downshift Matthew Vaughn, I'm back. I'm here for you. But I don't think that this is the way to go, because it just doesn't work. And it seems like flop sweat. And it's too desperate for me. That's at the end.
That is a really great way to describe how I feel about it too. That it is an anxious production. It just feels like it doesn't know how it's going to be. It's uncertain of itself, and I can feel its anxiety. I am also a 2 with no heart, but I will tell you this: for the very first time, I attended a film in D-Box.
Oh, D-Box.
I saw
this
D-Box
movie? Oh my God. How much Dramamine did you take?
I don't know what happened, but one of my local theaters now has rows of D-Box in it. And
was it insane? The movie never stops moving. Wait, D-Box is when your chair shakes,
yeah, it's
right?
got a jiggle seat, and that made the movie. I think maybe that's the extra star I'm giving it. It's like maybe it would have been 1 star if I had to just sit still all the time, but it kept keeping me awake. It was like, hey, Pete, now we're drifting. Now we're on a plane. Like.
That would actually be kind of dope.
Works.
Sure.
Dude, okay, have you? So I think I know the theater that you saw it in D-Box. Have you seen RPX at the other? Okay, is that the same or are they different? Right. Oh, they are different. No. So talk about how they're
very
different.
No, RPX is just that's shaking. The Regal premiere experience, and that's just bigger sound, more comfy seats. Like they have some. I think they have some like bass thumpers under the seat, so they kind of
shake.
They shake, but not like this. This is like a ride. Like it actually, the seat lifts up, and when you look at the audience, like you can see the movie. You know what it's like? It's a very subdued version of Soarin', California.
That's
where you're on the thing, and
I want to do the
like,
D-Box.
Yeah, it's like it.
Now I want to see
really
Ferrari
chilling out.
again.
When the guns shoot, you're getting hit. Like it's jerking you around. I was worried. I actually called Andy and I said, "Hey, this is my first D-Box. Should I not buy snacks? Or is it going to like shake the snacks out of my hand?" He said, "No, it's really okay. I stand by that. Snacks are okay. It didn't knock anything out of my hands."
Well, this is awesome. I didn't know it was available until we went to see this movie. So I think in future film boards, we should get together and conspire to all see one in D-Box so that we can kind of talk about what that experience is like.
Because I need a new experience of it. Because the only time I've been to a D-Box is last year I saw Women Talking, and it did not. It was a real letdown.
Good pull. Slap the mic away. This was really fun, guys. Thank you. Thanks so much for enduring. I'm pretty excited about next month. I normally would toss to JJ, but he's already abdicated himself from this movie because he hasn't been able to stay awake through the first one. Tom, what are we doing next month?
I don't know any reference from it, but it's Dune 2, Sandworms. I loved the first one, and I desperately have to rewatch it because I don't remember much other than Timmy's eyes. But I've heard that apparently Zendaya is actually going to be in more than flashbacks and staring
Good.
moodily in the sand in this one. So
Yeah, I
no,
think she has lines.
I love Denis Villeneuve so much as a director, and so I'm very excited to see what he does to give a powerhouse of a movie like this to a powerhouse of a director like that is always exciting. So I'm
Maybe
excited.
by then,
Dune
JJ
2.
will actually see the movie.
That's right.
Maybe.
The first one. Maybe. We'll see.
I'm on
Hey,
track. I'm on track.
super, super fun. Yeah, as it always is, these movies, sometimes these conversations are even more fun with a movie just like this. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out and listening to this today. We appreciate your time and your attention. Can't wait to go back to Arrakis, baby. Enjoy that trailer. It's coming up right after this. But first, on behalf of Justin Yeager and Tommy Benson III, I'm Pete Wright. Meeting adjourned.
It's okay. I'm here. I'm here. It's been a while since you've had one of those nightmares. Tell me, what was it about?
It's only fragments. Nothing's clear. You've been fighting the Argonans for decades.
Look!
My family's been fighting them for centuries.
Your blood comes from dukes and great houses. Here, we're equal. What we do for the benefit of all.
Well, I'd very much like to be equal to you.
Maybe I'll show you the way.
Deal with this prophet. Send assassins.
Fade Rother. He's psychotic.
I see possible futures all at once. And in so many futures, our enemies prevail. But I do see a way. There is a narrow way through.